I can't remember my ag bio classes.
Okay. Meeting minutes, a couple minutes after 6. Bring this finance meeting to order. First off, I'd like to have an approval of minutes from April 22nd.
Motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Yes. Yeah, there's copies back. So we'll wait till September for our old business. New business, finance committee meeting dates for the fall. I'll start time 6 p.m. So we just need policy for August 18th.
Yes.
So
We need
unless
an
there's-
August meeting?
Do we need an August meeting?
So I think we canceled the one this year. We did not have August of 2024, I believe. I think we canceled that one.
All right, I'm fine with that.
No,
You're right, because we
no.
won't be having any.
Budget will be done.
All right, so cross off your August 18th meeting, we'll go right to September 15th, which I'm assuming is gonna line up with policy as well?
Yes, it's us on the calendar.
Okay, all right. So we'll put them in for September 15th, October 20th, November 17th. Mark your calendars, the fun stuff. Okay, we'll move on then, unless anybody has any questions, we'll move on to the clear residency verification discussion. Sure.
So I'll take that. Yeah, so
Oh,
clear
no.
clear residency verification is an organization, CLEAR is the organization that works with helping with districts and residency verification. I put something in the board update, I think the last 2 weeks, just to share. It's kind of something that's traveling through the county right now. A couple of our lower county school districts that are a little closer to Philadelphia see a little more transiency, and people that are, a little more movement, let's say. So basically, it's a program that assists with verifying through public data where people are residing. So the first wave, typically they go through your charter school, cyber charter school addresses to see if people are here. They have public data that they use. It does eventually get down to potential license plate checking, again, on public data to verify, and it gives us a report back that says 100% of these people are living in your district based upon that, and it gives you a percentage all the way down to 10 or 12 or single-digit percent, kind of not really verifying that they live there based upon the bills that they're paying, the things that are being submitted to public data to help our in-house folks with residency. Right now, we deal with residency where a student says, yeah, it was really a long time for me to come in today from Watertown. So then you think about that, and they're being dropped off, or there was an accident on the Northeast Extension, and you're like, wait, that doesn't sound right, so you dig a little more. So this is a more proactive approach to checking residency, and then once a year, they go through and do your whole student set database, and then it's available through the year for one-offs that come through the office to check on residency. So we have a policy for residency checking. It's just, right now, the way most districts have been, it's very passive. This is a little more active to verify if people that are in your district that are getting the services and that we're paying for are living here. So I put in there, it's, again, a couple districts that are in the county are beginning to contract with them and use them for an initial look at. I wanted to present that to the board, no rush on it. The cost is roughly $18,000 per year. If you balance that out with one cyber student, if you find at least one cyber student that is not residing in our district, that's $16,500. So it almost pays for itself after one student, and I think it's more of a concept to make sure that we're being as fiscally responsible and checking and being actively checking on some of the roles, including our in-person people. Again, it's in the paperwork that was there, shared the updates. So it's a concept that's out there. It feels a little intrusive sometimes when you're getting into public data and license plate checking and all that type of thing, but again, that's all done off-site. We're presented with the report, and it tells us if everything comes back 100%, then everyone's living here and everyone's doing what they need to do, and then if you have others that are not, then you would follow up with them and appropriately ask for supporting documentation to justify that. And there very well may be a reason why that information is not there. It's just verified and checked, and there may be other reasons why it's not. And should we be paying for students that are coming to our in-person schools that don't live here? Should we be paying for students that were here, maybe they moved, but never really told the cyber school or charter school that they moved?
Right, because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, they're getting their pay regardless. So that was the concept. Again, I plan it here, leave it. We don't need to make a decision today, but at least the concept that's there to be, again, look at it from a fiscal lens, as well as to make sure that we're paying for the students that are coming to us, and if they're not, we need to either A, recoup that tuition, that's a part of our policy, so we would have to activate our policy, which says we're going to move in that direction, or have them go to the right district and stop paying for ones that aren't here. So,
That would count for any, and I'm just saying this because I know that happened a long time ago. That would also account for a student that came to play our sports, that shouldn't have lived somewhere that they shouldn't be living.
I guess, yeah, that would be, I mean, this doesn't get into what they're doing here, but it's just a matter of students that are not residing but coming in person, that would get swept up in the report, as well as your initial look at some of the cyber and charter.
Yep.
And it's not targeted, eventually, as you go through the cycle of the year, you look at all students. So
Okay.
if everyone's here, and if everyone is in the district that should be here, then the 18,000, which is the first yearly fee of a 3-year agreement that they pitched, would be verifying that.
Right.
If not, then you can look at it as a cost savings, or just making sure that we're being responsible with the people that are here.
Okay.
You use cyber and charter as the examples. What if we had 2 or 3 students that were brick and mortar here?
Yeah,
What would the
same thing.
savings be for that, though?
I don't know, I don't know if you could put a finger on it in terms of the numbers that we use when we send money out, but, I mean, our cost per student is roughly 16,000.
16,
You know,
okay.
I think from a
Okay.
cyber or a charter, you can definitely recoup that, but you could count on that money. But if you had, let's say, 2 students, I don't think you could take 32,000 off the general budget. I think it would be a little more challenging.
Yeah.
But if you get, I mean, you know, it's a bigger commitment, and I think it has potential to make sure that we're doing everything we can when we have concerns about the cyber and charter. And again, if everything is above board and there's no problems, then that's it. And
Yep.
we have that verification. And then Mrs. Malone and Dr. Farina, when questions come up, they have this service available to them to run the information through there. Because they do come up from time to time, and quite frankly, not everyone's forthcoming with that information.
Right.
You know,
Well, and there's just more opportunity now because of the cyber.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we still continue to get requests, you know, hey, we just moved to Quakertown, can we stay, can we do this? And, you know, we still have to hold a line on those things, because we are not a tuition school. It's written in our policy, and we follow that. And the only exception to someone that's moving is for senior year, for a student in good standing.
Right.
So,
We went through a case a couple of years ago on that.
Right, yes, we did. Yes, we did. All right.
so I'll leave it there, I'll plan it, leave it for a little while. Again, I don't think we can get into, doesn't necessarily need to be a part of budget right now if we wanted to get into it. I mean, unless there's an overwhelming, you had a chance to take a look at it, I can put it in again one more time.
Okay.
But wanted to at least present that as that's what's going on. And
I'd say revisit it around November and see if we can get any feedback from them on as to what success they've had in Montgomery County.
yeah, and I can
Or in
get
the
Yep,
surrounding
that's-
I
area.
can get that information from the superintendents that are participating.
Okay.
I know the one, Springfield Township, has already started and has already, you know, they picked up 7 students in their first week.
I can
Again,
see
they're
it.
they're in a different, they're a little closer to Philadelphia, a little closer, but that is what it is.
Well, I came from Pottsgrove,
Okay.
and I know that in Pottsgrove, there were a couple different developments that had influx of kids during the week and outflux on the weekends, because they were coming in from Philadelphia and things like that, so.
Okay.
So it's out there.
Okay.
You know, I shared with the contact that we were going to at least share it.
Okay.
Mrs. Sharp's coming in right now.
Okay, yeah, and, yeah, Charlie was on too.
Yep.
I have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, a real quick question, like when it comes to issues like homelessness or domestic violence, where there's PFAs and everything, and a child is moved to a protected area outside of the district, like, when you find that out, do you move that child out, or do you still allow that child to attend the school?
Typically, that would fall under what we call McKinney-Vento Homeless Act, or if it's domestic violence. Now, we continue to try to support that student and be the stable environment that they are. Now, we've had challenges where that stable environment for home isn't, say, let's say in Ben Salem. So, you know, and then our transportation, trying to work with their transportation to get the kids halfway here, to get them there. And sometimes they choose to choose schools, but in that type of situation, if it was local, there's law, the McKinney-Vento law allows them to continue to have their schooling, and we help with transportation or combined with another local district to get them here so they have that stable environment.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
So
continue to visit.
food for thought?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to food service unpaid balance update and accounting changes.
Yeah, so we've been hearing from our auditors and other districts that the state auditors are going around and they're telling districts that you need to, and we confirmed it with our auditors, that there's an unpaid balance that's on the food service books, which is outside of our budget. But they're saying that that balance needs to be moved into the general fund because the food service, it can't sit on the food service side. I don't know where they're coming up with this, but it's been confirmed. So we're gonna have to do some accounting entries, but it won't affect the expenditures or revenues of the general fund budget because it's just gonna be sitting as a receivable and a liability on the general fund. And then on the food service side, it's gonna have to just be taken out of the negative balances that are sitting there on their books. So really, there's just gonna have to be some accounting entries that have to be made. This will fit nicely with us starting to use Parent Square, because now we'll have all those balances brought over in the general fund. We can put those balances in the Parent Square and send out notifications, through text messages, through, app notifications and all that, to hopefully help us in collecting those debts that we do have.
Okay.
So,
Anybody have any questions?
Do you have a total on the debts?
we do, it's just over $41,000.
That's active debt on K-12 for current students.
That is active, correct? Yeah, yep.
That is the current year's, that translates to current year's debt.
So, I guess that
No, it's
could
not
be-
current
a
year,
couple-
it's the current
it's the
group
current-
of K-12 students.
Yeah.
That's their total debt over the course. So if they're a senior, it could be debt accrued of multiple years, and the kindergarten it's just this year.
Yeah.
It's not just 41,000 this year, it's all the current students and all their current debt
Right.
combined.
And they didn't qualify for like free and reduced lunch?
They would not have,
They would not have, so they.
because they wouldn't be on there, yeah. if
Well,
they- I mean, they could have had.
They could have qualified but
Could
not
have been the
applied.
reduced part.
Well-
Could have qualified,
That
not
makes important
applied.
distinction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because right now, I believe if you're on the free and reduced lunch, there's no reduced, it's all free.
Free.
The
Right.
lunch and breakfast
Right.
is all free for everyone. So,
Right.
But we
It
never.
does seem high for, considering we have.
3,200 kids.
So much free offer. or
Yeah.
ability to get.
Yeah, but they
it.
have to take it. They have to ask for it,
Right, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have worked, Paula, our food service director, and us, we've worked with our administrators to sort of get some better procedures in place. Because there's a little bit of a disconnect where the food service department was sending out letters. From my experience, parents and kids listen when the principals send out letters. So we're kind of coming together to kind of get a streamlined approach as to collecting these debts, notifying parents that these debts are out there and collecting. So with all this conversation, we did sort of clean up that process a little bit more over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So
Okay.
hopefully that'll help,
Good. All right.
hopefully.
Yes.
So do we hold anything back for seniors then, if they're in debt to the food service?
So that's the other conversation that we did have, that we need to make sure that we have everything in place, but there are some things that we can't withhold, but anything that we can withhold, as far as I know, we are withholding what we can. Yeah. You can't withhold a diploma, I mean, we just can't do that.
Right.
But, there may be certain things like dances or other things that can be, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I have a question, so when you send out this bill to these families, are you sending the free and reduced lunch?
So they do get that, they get that in the beginning of the year, that goes out, Paul sends that out.
Yeah, it's on the website.
And it's on, and it's on the website, so that has been distributed to them. I guess we can work on communicating in that Parent Square notification again, that it's out there. Yeah,
There's so much out, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. we'll
Okay.
definitely Put that out
Good
there.
suggestion. Okay. All right, anything else on that topic? Okay. Do you want to go to the informational real quick?
That's a
And then
good
we
idea.
can-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were notified, probably about a little bit less than a month ago, that Dr. Giblin, so when she has a student with special needs, and those needs and services are highly expensive, she's able to apply to the state to get some additional support in funds. So she did qualify for $150,000 for some of our students that were high cost. So this is at least the second year in a row. I'm not sure if it
Yep.
really has happened prior, but that's the most that we could have received. So that'll help with our revenues for the current year, for
Good.
sure.
For our current year, but not the year.
Correct.
But
Right,
not the
'cause you
budget
don't know
we're
you get
approving
it.
next month.
Not the
Right.
budget that we're, yes.
Because we
yeah.
didn't get it yet, I mean, for the next
Just want to
year.
make that clear to everybody.
Yeah.
that's
And these are-
listening.
Don't be subtracting.
These are from expenditures from the 23-24 year. So it's
Okay.
always a year behind.
Petey's always here behind.
Yeah, and I can't, I wish I could budget in next year for 150,000, but
But you can't.
we just don't know, so,
All right. Well, it's something to keep in mind anyway.
yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, you could certainly take a look at informational 4B. That really just talks about Representative Cerisi's proposal for charter school cyber charter funding reform, which, if it goes through as he proposed, would save us at least $1.1 million.
That would be amazing.
Don't hold your breath.
I
No,
think
but it
it's-
would be amazing.
I think for 10 years I've been holding my breath and it still
Yeah.
hasn't come, so.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Surprised
I'd
they haven't
say.
fallen over.
You should be on the swim team.
Alan, you know Joe. Do you have any pull?
Yeah. You can only tell them what you can tell them.
Trina has a question, go ahead, Trina.
Oh, go ahead, Trina.
Drew, we happen to know if that's expected to pass, or like if there's often like an expectation. I know you just said you've been holding your breath for 10 years. Has this been proposed before and failed, or is there an expectation that this will go through?
Yeah, I believe this is the second year in a row that he has proposed this exact same bill. And there have been people, you know, like I said, at least 10 years now, somebody has been introducing some sort of cyber charter funding reform, and nothing has ever happened.
Okay,
But
thank you.
this is the same amount that Governor Shapiro has in his initial
Yeah.
budget as well,
Yeah.
8,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, again, we don't know their budget until July or August.
Yeah, and that's something that's relatively new, is the governor has not always put that into their proposal. So hopefully that means that there is steam.
Hope for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not to put you on the spot, Drew, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. Is there any way you could, like right now or maybe later, tell us what that savings might look like for us in our budget?
I'll take a stab at it. It's about 1.1 million.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, you have it in there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
No, no worries.
Trina, you're a day late and $1.1 million short. Just saying. Okay. All right, anything else on that topic? All right.
Thank you.
One more fun one? Go ahead.
Yeah, so we did talk about just having a $1,500 startup fee for the Parent Square Pay. And we found out that we were in the, what did they call it? We were on the wait list.
Yeah,
That's what it was. We were on the wait list to start it, which means then they waived the $1,500 startup fee, which we were gonna pay out of this year's budget in order to save, what was it, $3,600 or so next year. So, you know, just a heads up, informational item that we'd save
Excellent. We'll take it.
$1,500.
We'll take it.
We will take it.
All right. So if there's no more questions on that, we'll move on to the 25-26 final budget discussion.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to leave it on the agenda, open up the floor if anybody had any, you know, questions or anything, comments, and discussion related to the proposed final budget, which was on May 8th. That was passed by the board. Obviously, we have until the 19th to make changes. In the June 9th Finance Committee meeting will be we need a recommendation from the Finance Committee to the full board as to what any kind of final increase would look like, or should look like, as
Gotcha.
recommended by the committee.
Okay. All right. Any discussion so far?
I was hoping you would say you found money.
Nothing yet.
1,500.
1,500.
I'm hoping to find 1.1 million.
I know there were a couple board members that I've talked to over the last couple weeks that have suggestions of things they thought maybe we could try to implement and lower some costs.
Yeah, I will share that I put together some numbers like I put together last year. Just suggesting that we look at each department. Like I left off, of course, salary and benefits and things like that, which can't really be changed. But if I wrote facilities, athletic budget, assistant superintendent, and special ed, if they could try to shave off 3% each, then we could save, it was 322, 393, or no, sorry, 398, 232, so almost $400,000. And if we doubled that, it would save $800,000, save or fine, quote unquote, $800,000. It's possible, I just know that admin already went through and kind of with a fine tooth comb for these exact departments and more, and looked to see if there were any potential areas to save. So I did do that, and it's interesting, Drew, you brought up the special ed department. Dr. Giblin said she could find, so to speak, $150,000 if she could do that for next year too. That actually gets us closer to what I came up with here. But it's just a thought to go through additional departments and see if something can be saved. Like 3% isn't colossal. Like from the superintendent budget, that's $18,000. That's 3%. If you double it, of course, that's. That was one thought that I had.
Did you have any thoughts on specific expenditures that would cut that yourself?
Well, let's see. I did put a couple thoughts together. The one example was, let's see, the school board / superintendent could try to make do without that 3%. The budget, this is from last year, that our budget contained last year $34,000 for supplies and books. Could we try to cut that off without, like, go without paper copies unless upon request, maybe go, because we get dinners made each year. I don't know what the expense is there since it's for cafeteria, but maybe agree to cut some of those. Just sample ideas. I don't really want to go without dinner, but some thoughts about just sort of trying to shape some of the smaller things. And I did think cutting special ed in my proposal is like cutting them by $170,000, unless you double it, of course. And that's a lot, and a lot of special ed is tied into legal requirements. So I don't know.
I'd be worried about cutting special ed only because we also don't know what kind of students we're gonna get. I mean, if anything, I wouldn't cut special ed. I think that's like at the, Andrea's not here anymore, but I think, like that's already been factored into what we do know. I mean, I know we have people that leave and people that come in, but that's such a big expense.
Yeah, the students that we know are here, we're planning for them all the way down to their services through the IU, the cost plan.
Right.
And there is some contingency funds in there for students that come in and they need to maintain a program they're in from another district. And that could be $180,000 for a placement.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that doesn't happen every year, but that's part of budgeting.
Right.
Yeah, I totally hear that. This may be conjecture on my part, but I think it was Penn Ridge was, at their recent board meeting was cutting some positions in special ed. I don't know if they went through with it, but it was at least proposed because they found that they had like extra, maybe one-on-ones or something like that they weren't really needed. So they kind of went through. I don't know if that's a space that we're in. I haven't seen anything like that, but
I'm assuming,
it sounds
I'm good
that
as,
it's special ed, but if you find that there are extra positions that aren't, required or being used, I guess, but,
well, I would think because, I mean, just in a general sense, since this is my H budget, I'm gonna say that this year, and I know that Drew Allen did a forensic audit on our last year, and we were that close. It was that close, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I'm just from my experience, I'm gonna say that right now, this is pretty darn tight. I mean, clear and necessary. I don't know, I mean, yeah, I'd love to save 3% either, I mean, on any of those budgets, but I just, the problem is, the biggest part of our budget is already, like you said, salaries and benefits. We can't, there's no playing with that. There's,
Yeah.
I know, believe me, I would love to find all of this money too and get it out of our hair, but, I was just trying to think of if you had any other actual expenditures that you saw from last year that maybe could come off for this year, next year, this year to next year, sorry.
Not without these specific departments kind of digging in. It's like all year these departments tell us, we need this, we need that. It's kind of like, okay, if you need it, you need it. So,
Gotcha.
you know,
Okay,
I guess just taking a deeper look to see if there was any way over. But again, I know that admin already did a deep dive into these departments and more.
yeah, I know, I feel like this is the deepest dive it's ever had.
Yeah, I think we have, I mean, there's been time since that, so I think we can continue to take a look at plans between now and the 9th to look at the departments and see if we can continue to pinch down.
Yeah, we certainly won't complain if you.
Yep.
Any other, do you have any thoughts? Sarah?
Can I just, real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned it, so when you said last year, 23-24, when the audit was done, there was a $27,000 surplus on a $75 million budget.
It
So
was
that
close.
Yeah, that was close. And agreed, some of it was ESSER, but we also overspent our expenditure budget that year
Yes.
for the 23-24 year. So, I mean,
The
that
revenues outpaced.
yeah, right, so the revenues came in a lot stronger than what was budgeted, but the expenditures were also a lot higher than
Right.
what was budgeted. So when you look at what we did for 25-26, I mean, revenues are going up 5.6%. That's just local revenues are going up 5.6%. State is up 7%. So I feel like in looking at the budget, the expenditures came up, but they had to because they were too low in 23-24. Revenues have been brought up just to what they probably, closer to what they should be. Now, it still may be a little bit under, just in not knowing some of these revenues that EIT we talked about has been very strong.
You can't
So-
tell what the housing market's actually gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and I bumped up the interest revenue, just in looking at what we brought in. So I feel like we're getting the revenue up to where it should be, and I feel like the expenditures are also having to come up. It's just they're not coming up at the same.
In the right proportion, yeah.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
Well, our biggest problem is, some of our health benefits, the increases that we've seen with that. And
Yes.
every industry, every company out there is experiencing that also.
I know my
So,
company
you know,
went
you're
up
talking-
24%.
Well,
Got it.
yeah. You hear minimum 14%, you see people getting 20, 25, 30% increases. So that is our biggest obstacle right now.
Yeah, that didn't help.
Cutting, if we wanted to cut, where would we cut at this point? There is nothing that we can really cut. We can fine tune a few things, but we cannot make any drastic cuts that would make up that deficit right now.
Yeah,
And I would not suggest cutting, if somebody wants to start making suggestions, we can't cut educational programs, plain and simple.
well, I also don't.
And I don't want to discuss anything else after that.
I gotcha. I think, I don't want to have that threat of, oh, we're going to cut music, we're going to cut art.
No.
We're not doing that,
No.
period. So anybody who had that in their mind, get it out. 'Cause that's
I have a
not,
question.
sure.
It's not a suggestion, I'm not suggesting this, I just have a question, okay? When I was looking at the budget in its totality, athletics, is accounted for, I forget how much, but it's not broken down, there's no itemized expenditures. Do you have access to that? Is that something that you guys could look at in the budget itself, or is that?
So I mean, my personal opinion, and again, 8 budgets, so, yeah.
I don't think that's the solution, I'm not saying let's cut athletics, I'm just
No.
saying, it's hard for the public, at
To
least,
see it.
to look at it and just to understand what that number means, how it's broken down, how it's allocated.
Gotcha. I know, we can see
We can ask for more
Okay.
detail.
Yeah, the
Okay.
detail, that's the word.
If we wanted to go item by item, I'm sure that we get reports similar to that, yes.
Sure, was posted publicly.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Were you looking at what presentation were you looking at?
I'm
Just the one
trying to
that was.
find it, I don't think I have it
Okay,
printed, I'm
so
going on my paper.
If you go on the website, Business Office, and then the 25-26 budget, we have all the presentations. Athletics was November,
Okay,
so in there you'll see repairs X amount. So it's not, I mean,
It's
it's
more
not
detailed.
every single repair, but
Right.
it's lumped in by, you know,
Okay.
repairs or communications or professional services,
Alright.
like that sort of thing. So that might be a little more detailed.
thank you, I think that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes you have to dig a little
Yeah.
bit because we've done it for such a long time.
Right, yeah.
Again, the other biggest expenditures we have right now that keep going up are, well, besides cyber school, you didn't hear that, are repairs to all of our facilities and our
Yeah.
buildings. I mean, delayed maintenance is just increased cost for us, and we've been suffering for that for the past 6 years. And we've been trying to rectify that for a number of years. This all started, you know, eight years ago when they started the middle school project. I got up and said, not for it, not against it, but have a comprehensive plan. We were lacking a comprehensive plan at that time.
Yeah.
And we've been working on it for the past 6 years. You can see that by looking at the budget meetings, you can see that looking at the budgets, seeing what's put away for everything, what we're trying to put away for future projects and everything. And us prioritizing the projects. You know, you've seen us approve the roof repairs this summer,
But
the
not all
high
of
school
them.
repairs for the asbestos abatement and things like that. You know, these are all things that should have been considered years ago, but never were, and we're playing catch-up. 6 years ago, we were buying telephones off of eBay, and we had to replace our entire phone system. This is before Dr. Roche got here.
Yep.
So you
I'm a
can't
big
blame
fan
it on
of
him.
eBay. I'm a big fan of
Well,
eBay.
they couldn't even find the parts on, they couldn't even find the parts on eBay anymore.
I like parts.
So old. So, yeah,
But-
so, you know, $90,000 right off the bat for the new phone system.
But this is really what
That
we're
was it.
paying for now. You know, not having preventive maintenance plans, not having a 5 or a 10-year plan going forward. And this is what we've been trying to correct over the past few years, and unfortunately, this is why we have to pay for it now.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I'll go on my soapbox and say, if you want property tax reform, you have to start at the state. We cannot just
Agreed.
obliterate
No,
taxes,
unfortunately.
so. And
We
state,
all like to do that.
and again, as Drew was saying, state funding, more state funding for us.
So speaking of that, are you guys going to do a resolution to the, our state senator and House to, about?
I can say I dropped, not that I dropped the ball, because I'm the one who said it. But it's only been a week, so,
Sure.
yeah. haven't-
But there is a plan to do
I'd like to.
a united voice to.
I'd like to. I'm so-
And, but that said, can the MCIU do one as a unit as well? I mean, if the whole county,
That makes sense.
I mean, that's a bigger voice.
We've talked about it from the IUs. I mean, I've talked about it from the superintendents in terms of some of the joint things across the county. I don't know if Trina may have a better handle on if the county, from the director's level, is talking about that, but I know we talked about it with the superintendents.
Did you talk about that, Trina?
What was the first part of that question?
The question was, is the IU, as a unit representing the 23 districts, have there been any talk about them doing resolutions for funding and cyber charter reform, those type of things? I know we talked about it at the superintendent meetings.
Yeah, that's just in discussion. I don't know how in-depth and how much that would affect us directly as of yet, but yeah, those discussions are happening.
Yeah.
But it would be good to have their support for it.
Yeah. What we hear from the legislation is when I call or when I talk to Senator Pennycook or Melinda McKenzie or Mrs. Cerisi, we're like-minded. They need to hear from lots of people. I mean, they're going to hear from us and they're going to go, oh, that's a nice form letter, okay. And it's one more piece, but they need to hear it a lot. So it's everyone doing it, and that's when it's,
So even the parents could help you have.
Yep.
By also.
I mean, we're all state constituents, so,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, whether we're on a board or not.
Well, maybe we can put together a resolution that we can send as a board and maybe put an example of that on the website at some time so that parents could take it
Yeah,
and
that's
say.
great.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
And that's the ones that we get from the PSBA or we get from the county that say, kind of copy and paste, here's the
Yep.
beef of it.
Here it is, send it to who?
It's a start, it's a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, then there's always my favorite topic, cyber charter schools, which pretty much, if I said this before, pretty much is our deficit.
That's increased 3 times
Yes, it has.
over the past year.
Used to be like $500,000 that we kept in our reserve fund for that purpose, and then it went up, and now it's $4 million.
But our administrators are still taking a look as we're constantly moving forward, you know, and as they find things, they're informing us. If they can get even a few dollars back, just like Drew said, Dr. Giblin had the $150,000 grant, which will cover our past expenses. But
Yep.
hopefully it'll change for the better over the next few.
Well, we have work to do before the 9th, so we'll
Yes.
continue to do our job, and hopefully the revenues will come in stronger than I see Peg's very too.
Yep, I know. Hey, go ahead.
Get
Yeah.
comfortable, I'm gonna be a while.
Yep,
Are you ready?
we're ready.
There's 2 empty seats up there.
All right. Just to preface this is my opinion. I'm one of those senior citizens on a fixed income, so that's what you're gonna get. As I said at the board meeting, a 4.9% tax increase is not fiscal stewardship. We cannot come to the table every year and simply raise taxes. We are living in a new normal. We have to operate differently and think differently. We have to think outside the box. To Keith's points, he's spot on. This is almost like a perfect storm, where a lot of things are coming together. We go back a couple years to COVID. 2 years straight, we didn't increase taxes, because it was the right thing to do.
Yep.
Build on that. Now we've got massive repairs that have to be done, massive upgrades that have to be done. In addition to that, we've got the charter school issue. We've got an increase in utilities. So again, perfect storm. We have a new middle school, which in my opinion, and I wasn't here for this, some poor decision making. But, you know, that's easy to criticize. I wasn't here. But I heard it in State College.
We did make quite the thing, didn't we? Yeah, I did.
Having grown up here and having always stayed connected with this community, even when I was working away, somewhere we went off into this alternate time continuum, like in Back to the Future 2. I don't know when it happened or why it happened. But we have an issue in this community with trust, a lack of trust, in a lot of different spaces. This space particularly with budget. So if you think back to previous administrations, long before Alan got here, this very building was pitched to the community as the kindergarten center.
Yep, sure was.
I don't see any 5-year-olds running around. The community remembered that.
They remember a lot of things.
We were also told, and again, I missed this, but we were also told that the now 4-5 building, which was the middle school, is condemned. Unusable.
No one could ever go in there.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
Unusable. And now we have a new middle school. But we also have a functioning 4-5 building, which, by the way, this current board, well, with the exception of the new members, were told a few years ago in a feasibility study that it has good bones. Trust, people. There is a deterioration of trust in this school district. Again, in a lot of different spaces. I'm talking specifically to budget. Trina was kind enough to crunch some numbers. But again, it goes back to, she did the crunching, but what does that look like? What gets reduced? What gets eliminated? And that's, probably for administration to figure out. Drew, I'm assuming that when we have a surplus, like we had that whopping $27,000, that gets rolled over into the next year, the next budget cycle, correct?
That gets rolled into the fund balance.
Right. So let's talk about some specific things in addition to what the committee has always proposed and suggested, because remember, we live in a new day. We cannot budget the way we did in the past. We are in a really unique space right now at Upper Perk. So let's talk about specifics. Maybe next year we don't go to conferences. Let's all stay home and do our jobs. Let's not do conferences next year. Maybe we don't buy furniture next year. I think we've got plenty of furniture. If we need desks, I'll build you some desks. I'm pretty good at woodworking. Maybe we eliminate furniture. Maybe we initiate, if we don't do it already, and I apologize, I don't know this, maybe we initiate a spending freeze. May 1st, we're done. The only thing that gets spent are the obvious expenses, salaries and all that kind of stuff. But we're done May 1st, nobody's buying anything. Because if you haven't spent your budget by then, you're not going to spend it. And we're not going to do a mad rush to the store to buy up the rest of our budget. I think we need to seriously consider a purchasing examiner. Now, unfortunately, because of budget, we can't go out and hire somebody, so that's going to have to happen in-house. That we have a person or persons specifically in charge to scrutinize every single request for purchase. Down to the, I don't care if you're buying a box of pencils. Well, we don't use pencils anymore. But we have, every single purchase is examined. Now, of course, people are going to have a problem with that, but you know what? This is our new normal. And any purchase that's requested over, and I'm just using the number, it could be a different number, anything over $500 has to come with a written justification. We got to really scrutinize on our spending, plain and simple. Let's talk athletics, since that seems to be my area of expertise. At least I think it is. A lot of community people think it is. I'm not so sure some school personnel think I know what I'm talking about, but that's besides the point. The facilities, athletics facilities strategic plan is not sustainable. Not the way it was presented. Alan, you and I had that conversation. I understand it was part of your goals. You succeeded in your goal. We have to look at alternative funding sources to fund some of those facility requests by athletics. I did it my whole career. I headed a funding project at Blue Mountain many, many years ago to put stadium lights in. It was a community-wide effort, and we raised the money. I've done it my whole life. We have to find alternative funding for many of those projects. The money for field rentals is supposed to be used to support replacement of the turf. And again, somewhere that got lost. Not lost, but we don't have the money there. We have some money there, but we don't have the full amount to replace the turf. Why has it taken so long to bring a strategic plan for athletics to the board? I don't get that. It has taken a long time for something to come to us, and this is the worst possible time to bring us a multi-million-dollar request, over 5 years, of course. We've got to look at corporate sponsorships. We've got to look at alumni sponsorships. We've got to look at Booster Club help. But that takes relationships. And what did I say earlier? Trust. There's an issue with trust. We could save money by moving the 3 middle school sports teams that are now functioning at the 4-5s building, at the facilities there, move them back to main campus and eliminate that busing cost, along with that maintenance cost. Every time the maintenance people have to go up to the 4-5 and get those fields ready or maintain those fields. Let's bring everybody back to campus where everybody can see everybody and support everybody. Can be done. Let's talk athletic trainers. So I've been asking the question, do we need 3 athletic trainers? So I need to vet out some answers here, Alan and Drew. So we're talking St. Luke's, and I saw in the board update the understanding of the verbiage on the conversation about 3 trainers. Here's what struck me as very strange. St. Luke's stated, they are not willing to reduce their standard of care of Upper Perkiomen by dropping from 3 athletic trainers to 2. Based on the number of sports and student athletes in our district and the potential for any serious incidents, they strongly believe that Upper Perk requires the support of 3 athletic trainers. I found that fascinating. In my 36 years as an athletic director in 5 school districts, I never had a single medical organization dictate to a school how many athletic trainers you must have. Never seen it, ever. The athletic trainer in this state and every state in the country is not a mandated position. So what I'd like to know is, number one, according to St. Luke's, who needs to have this contract, well, first I want to know who from St. Luke's stated that they're not willing to reduce their standard of care by dropping to 2 trainers. Who said that from St. Luke's? Do we know?
Drew, me, Drew was at the meeting.
Yeah, I can get his official title, if that's what you're looking for.
And you heard that come out of his mouth?
I heard them stop just short of saying they wouldn't be our trainer if we went down to 2, but they said, we highly recommend you not dropping down to 2. They cited burnout, if there were 2, burnout of the trainers. They cited there would be no budgetary savings if you drop down to 2 until 2030, 2031, because they said that they have discounted it so far that they need to get back up to close to breaking even is what their exact words were.
So what's the price tag for the 3 coming up? Do we know?
Year 1 is 60,000.
60?
Yeah, it's
60, 90, and I believe 150.
150.
So it's basically then a 3-year contract?
So they're, no, that's fine, I just
Is it
need
really
it,
a
fine,
contract?
that's
One
fine,
offer, yeah.
that's fine. So they're gonna jack it up by year 3 and hold us hostage if we don't submit to 3 trainers. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Well, I mean,
So, but let me finish. So here's what I did. I contacted a neighboring school district just this afternoon. So, as you can imagine, I know pretty many of the ADs in the state. And this particular school district uses St. Luke's. And they are a bigger school district than we are. They offer more sports, have more student athletes. And I said, how many trainers do you have? 2. So I'm curious, and I asked the AD, who is a very good friend of mine, said, so did St. Luke's ever say to you, because of the number of student athletes and the number of sports that you have, you should have 3 or 4 trainers? And the athletic director said, no, they've never said that to them. So I'm just struggling with the whole kind of hold you hostage mentality that St. Luke's has with us, and I'm not getting
Hey,
it.
we don't have to go with St.
I was
Luke's.
gonna say,
We
can
can
we
go
look-
out.
Well, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. So my question is, do we look for other options when it comes to the trainers? And by the way, just FYI, the athletic director that I spoke to also said next year they're going to go to their own trainer. So they're going to hire a trainer and pay $65,000 for that trainer, so they'll get Peasers and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to hire a second trainer after that, because they're a much bigger district, and do the same thing. So they're not going to contract any more St. Luke's. So I would, this is just me, consensus rules. So I would love for us to look at alternative options when it comes to the athletic trainer situation. And I really question the need for 3 trainers. Burnout, that's a whole different conversation. The other question I have relative to the trainer situation is, and really it doesn't have to do with budget, but I'm curious to know if we have emergency response plans for all of our athletic facilities, written documented plans, so just kind of put that on the back burner. And the other thing I would like us to do is ask our insurance carrier their opinion on how many trainers we should have. If we're talking about risk and liability, let's get our insurance carrier. But I would love for us to explore other options.
Yes, we did talk to another organization who listened and was not interested in participating in an RFP or providing a quote. Drew, right, you spoke with that other group? Another hospital group that was a part of that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. In fact, just to level set, I know you know this, but just for the conversation, the past 5 or 6 or 7 years, we've been with St. Luke's at a flat rate of $27.5 for all those years. Somewhere along there, they added a third trainer to us at no additional cost to that $27.5, and we're simply at the end of the contract.
I got it.
I know, I'm just saying, I just want to level set for everyone here. So it's been that piece, and some of the, and it sounds like from the other organizations or the other districts, they're all facing the same thing. There was a time frame in there where St. Luke's was throwing money around like confetti, naming this and naming that, and they've kind of, that same feels it's at least dried up, so to speak.
Yep, I got you.
So we purposely put that in there for this conversation, so we would have all the information and not have to walk away from this table, but that was the frame out that they are saying, if we're gonna request to and work with them, I guess the charge is the same, right? It's not gonna be any different, so, you know, there are other options. I don't know of any other organizations, if we're gonna check with Lehigh Valley or.
And I'm wondering if we do what this other district is doing, is investigate whether hiring our own trainer would be a better route. That used to be the pattern years ago. I remember, 25 years ago, when I was at Blue Mountain, we hired our own trainer, and then the trend went to contracting from medical groups,
Sure.
right? Now we're kind of coming back. But if St. Luke's is gonna charge us $150 by the third year, that's 2 trainers that we could pay. Right? At 60,
Well, 65 plus another 25 for family benefits as we budget, and then whatever 33% of that for PESers.
Well,
That's all part of that conversation.
yeah,
Sure.
we'd have to investigate that.
Right.
So I'm just saying.
I got you.
Right? Okay, all right. So what about the future, folks? And again, we've really got to think outside the box and start thinking and functioning differently when it comes to budgeting, because I think just slapping a tax increase every year, I don't think that's what we're about. I think we have to get to the heart and soul of all of these issues. Build back trust in our community. Think about things like, and I shared this with Melanie, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm glad I'm sitting down. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but maybe we need to consider selling or renting a building. And I'm talking about either this building or I can't believe I'm saying the 4 or 5. But that's where we're at. That's where I believe we're at. Again, this is my opinion. I just think that's where we're at, because it's not just this year, folks. It's the next year and the next year. This isn't going to go away. So we need to start planning for 26, 27 today. So Melanie, I can't believe you just canceled the August meeting. We have to start now. It's not going away. We have to be more proactive in what we do here. We have to have more foreseeability. And one last thing, and I don't know, Leah might be able to jump into this, but maybe we can also make a connection with the Ed Foundation to establish some community relationships with businesses and alumni to start building that bridge to solicit contributions, if not for anything, for athletics. We got to think differently. And one last thing, and then I'll be done, Bradley.
You're fine, talk away. I got plenty of ink.
He has about 10 more empty pages.
Oh, good, thank you. Again, just my thought. I think this board needs to come up with a statement, a very clear, precise, intelligent statement to the public on what's happening and how we got here, and how it's not just about this coming fiscal year, it's about the years that follow. I think we owe that truth to the community. So, I'm done.
Do you have a vehicle for that? I'll be happy to do that. Do you have a vehicle for that?
Well, we can talk. But I would want the whole board to be in agreement with that. This is just me. This is just my opinion. But in order for me to vote for this budget, some of this has to happen. Now, I'm not saying all of it, but some of this has to happen. And it won't matter. You'll get your 5 votes. You'll pass the budget. But I'm standing on what I believe in and my principles. That's what we all do,
Yep.
right? And I'm, again, one of
I
those.
know when we talked, I said they were really thoughtful,
Well,
well thought out.
This is my home, this is the place I love, and, I hate to see, what's happening, but we've got to think differently, and we've got to function differently. That's all there's to it.
Suggestion for talking to the public. I mean, I think we, at one meeting, we said it's down the country, it didn't happen.
Sure.
$625 and thereabouts, we can take out a full page ad.
I'll pay for it.
From the board.
I'll pay for it.
You could go through that point by point. How did we get where we got? How did we get where we are now? And I think that would be a really major step in building this trust. And yes, I am working with the foundation. We have hired the executive director who will be doing the presentation on Thursday night at the board meeting. And she's very enthusiastic, she's very good, but she needs to know when she's going out and, what are our priorities? What would we like the foundation to be raising money for? I know school districts that have foundations that are raising millions of dollars.
Yeah. I use this example with a few board members that I spoke to, that at the last finance committee meeting, when we were doing presentations, and the slide came up of the minor cuts that were happening, and one was the record board for athletics. I'm assuming it was the track board, right? The track record board?
Yeah, along the
Yeah,
walkway,
yeah.
I think, yeah. The push.
I know 6 track alumni I could go to right now and get that money. In a heartbeat. That's what we gotta do. People
There's a
want.
disconnect.
Yes, people wanna help, but there's no connection. They feel alienated. I
They
mean,
need a vehicle to
you
help,
know,
too.
I gotta tell you, I feel disconnected. I don't feel welcome as an alumni. Sarah, I don't know how you feel, but, but I left the area and came back. Some of the treatment I've gotten, it's sad. It's just sad. Just sad. Thank you, sorry.
I want to piggyback off that.
Sure.
She made a very good point about communication, because someone who talks to a lot of community members, especially, road door knocking and stuff, they don't understand what is happening. They don't understand about charter schools. They don't understand about the things. And it would be good to communicate that, because they all just assume something's nefarious. And I can see that it's not. And there needs to be communication, because people slam the doors because of the budget. So I really think somehow, some way, getting out, this is why we're in the circumstance we're in. Just lay it all out for the community. I think that would be very, very helpful, and there'll be a lot more understanding and probably a lot less mobby when they get that bill. So,
Yeah, that's the other consideration.
You gave us a little history, Keith, when you were talking, which I have not been involved in the community until this.
Right.
I've lived here for 100 years, I have not been involved. I knew nothing about the middle school controversy. Believe me, because I was working in Philadelphia, so I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So, but if I wasn't involved here, and I didn't know that point you made about the middle school and all of that, and I see my
You just
tax bill going
I think
up,
it's all going up.
like, excuse me, what are you doing with the money? So I think your point about giving some history to the community, reminding them of what happened and how decisions were made without thinking to the future, and we're cleaning up that mess in the perfect storm, because we can't keep raising property taxes. And it's been, you know, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said that the way we fund education is unconstitutional. You know, because we're putting on the backs of people who own property. In this area, we have a very small industrial footprint compared to other areas in Montgomery County who can bring in, and what are their school districts looking like? Lower Marion, you know,
North
top of the pile.
Next pile down.
Top of the pile.
We have to remember that public schools are governmental entities, so we're not making money, we're spending money. And so our product is not a widget, it is student outcomes.
Outcome.
So, you know, and so when I hear from community that, you know, we're bottom of the barrel, not bottom of the barrel, but we're near the bottom when it comes to academic outcomes, and we're shelling out the taxes, it doesn't equate. And so we've got to figure this out and do this better.
I'm
Like I said,
already writing the article in my head.
Yeah, well, make that
We'll
collaborative.
collaborate on a few things.
Yes.
But you're both absolutely correct. You know, the things we have to worry about is the fact that, as Leah just said, you know, there's inequities in the funding. You know, we are limited because of our demographics, both our business and our geographic area. You know, we don't have we're the largest employer in the district. Lower Merion, hey, you've got the King of Prussia Mall down there.
Right.
You know, this is why the state has to go back and reevaluate how they fund public education. I mean, we could just keep running the deficit and trying to raise taxes and stuff like that, but do we want to end up like Philadelphia and have the state come in because of our mismanagement?
Or Harrisburg.
Well, you're gonna anger community.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that's already
yeah, and
angry.
besides that, yes,
And
I
you're not
understand.
gonna build trust. And, I would say all the time, you guys know this, I would say all the time, tongue in cheek, well, more car washes and bake
Bake
sales.
sales.
Here we are.
So,
Here we are.
But even if we would write the resolution and get the press release out there, because I think I shared the press release with Benridge that had written the
Yes.
resolution, and they sent out a press release to their community to let them know that the school board had supported the education budget that's before, you know, the House, Senate, and Representatives. And to me, it shouldn't be anything but vote for it, because more money is coming to us.
Kind of a no-brainer.
well, again, you know, we can put that out there as a board, but we need our residents, our community members to do the same
Do the right
thing.
too.
You need many voices in order to get this passed. You need many voices,
Can we ask for
as we
that?
said, to
Can we ask
go.
for that in the ad?
Yes, we will.
And put in because I have, there's the organization Philadelphia Children's First, which is sending out, I think, well, we got the annual report from them, they're sending out to us, you know, the template. All you have to do is set
Plug
it
in the
off.
play, yeah.
And we could do something like that on our
Well,
website.
now's
put
the
a
time for
template out
everybody
there
to
for
join the bandwagon.
Yeah, but
So-
whatever we decide to put out to the public has to be crafted so carefully, because not only is it a trust issue, but this community has gone through trauma.
Sure has.
There's trauma, and they're angry. And on a lot of different levels, with a lot of different things right now, and it's the way of the world, but, you
Yes.
know, as I know Upper Perk to be a caring and thoughtful community, I think we owe them some kind of statement that,
Yep, it's hard when not everyone's coming to our finance meetings, so they don't hear the presentations. They're not coming to our school
You're
board
never gonna
meetings
get
and
that.
hearing our presentations.
Never gonna get that.
Well, no, of course not. And I didn't expect to. But it also, you know, it's not like this little group here that's here listening and learning. It's not like you're all gonna go, you know, like the commercial for the hair shampoo, you tell 2 friends and you tell 2 friends and they so on and so on. It doesn't go that way. But it does, but I agree, a lot of transparency would go along.
Well, and to your point, this will sound silly, but it goes back to, if it's not in the town and country, it didn't
doesn't happen, yeah,
right?
right.
You gotta, folks, the town and country is it.
It is.
I'm sorry, it is. And,
Well,
I mean, did you read it last week? The history you guys do on stuff is
I love that.
mind-blowing.
Yep, it's great.
Anyway, and your sports coverage is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. But, you know, back when Kirby was the superintendent, remember he would always do a
Yep.
column every week. Alan, I'm not trying to.
Not suggesting.
You know, but maybe the district, either the board, or maybe it is you, Alan, a column goes in every week, like Kirby
Even once
did.
a month?
It was very helpful. It was informative. It was, you know, just honest. And I just think it helped with communication. So, just something to think about.
Yep, John, go.
All right, I have 2 issues that I'd like to talk about. One is, the first part is, we're hoping that something happens in the state that we get away from real estate taxes for supporting the schools. I heard that when I was a little kid, and I'm still hearing it now, so I doubt that's gonna happen. We need to do things that will impact the cost of education now and for the coming years in the school district. The first one is charter and cyber schools. And if I'm right, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, or just help me with the numbers, over 140 some kids in charter and cyber.
Right.
We have a total of 200 in cyber and brick and mortar.
Thank you. And how much money is going out to them, including transportation?
So the budget for this year was $3.2 million.
Okay.
3 point.
Including transportation?
That's tuition, though.
That's just tuition.
Okay, and transportation, add that to it. So 4 million?
So the budget next year for tuition is $4.2 million.
4.2 plus transportation, so we're talking
Right.
maybe 4.5. A number, pick a number, it doesn't matter. $4.5 million that is out of our use,
Yep,
okay? What's our deficit? 4 point what?
4.2.
Okay, so we have over 200 students that are being paid not to be educated here in the district.
Yep,
Why? Have we done any surveys with the students and the parents?
yep.
And have we implemented anything within the school district to resolve those issues, to bring them back, or at least prevent more kids from going out?
Well,
$4.5 million.
over the years I've been on the board, I can say.
And I know because I've asked the same question
I
years
know you
ago.
have, and I've been answering it for
Okay.
these years for you.
4.5 million. What are we doing in the school district to turn it around, to keep the kids in? Anything?
All right,
Okay,
so,
no, okay.
is that rhetorical, or you want me to answer
No,
that?
no, no.
Okay.
I would like an answer, but
Okay,
not right
gotcha.
this minute. So, as a taxpayer, I would love to continue paying for public education. And charter and cyber, to me, is not public education.
I
Okay?
agree.
And I think if we're gonna advertise, we should certainly put $4.7 million of our taxpayers' money going out from the school district, which is not helping our school district keep the taxes down.
Yep, I've been saying it
Okay.
for a while.
All right, number 2, and you're gonna hate this, but you and I lived through it. We have a building on Jefferson Street in East Greenville that was deemed unfit for students and teachers. What is that building costing us yearly to keep running? Fixed and variable costs, what is it? How many million?
Oh, I don't have that answer off the top of my
It
head.
would be nice for you to get that and show it to the taxpayers, because we don't need that building. There's alternatives. There are alternatives. And if we're gonna look at the taxes going forward, we should use some of those alternatives.
That needs to be a part of the discussion, I agree.
Gotta be. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just say it's 4 million or more, probably, if you add it all together. And I know it will be discomfort to everybody to move one grade back and one grade forward, but guess what? I'm very uncomfortable now paying the taxes I'm paying on fixed income. Huh?
Right there with you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. And yes, to answer the rhetorical question.
Yes.
So, now I forget what the rhetorical question was, I'm sorry.
What are we doing?
What are we doing to bring
What are we doing to
Thank
bring
you.
them back?
Thank you, thank you. So, I can tell you from the budget perspective that when it changed was COVID. People that didn't want their kids to come to school, period. People that didn't want their kids to come to school in a mask. That took a lot of them out. I think there was a lot of attitude about that. That's what I'll call it, attitude about that. And, I mean, I remember a meeting I had to shut down. That was part of it. Bradley remembers that meeting. So that was part of it. I think part of it is that the parents and the kids got used to their kids being home and working on their computer.
And we as a district can't say nothing, right? You can't go.
Yeah, we can't say that. Unfortunately, they have free will.
Well, maybe in the newspaper, there should be those two issues.
I've been saying it for years.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't the state just determine there's over 500 million of cash reserve in cyber and charter schools?
I'm sure there is, because there's no
Have we tried to
accountability.
reclaim any of what we paid out?
From who? Are we gonna
Well,
call them up and
I'm
say,
asking
can you
the
guys
question.
give us a rebate? I would be happy to do
I would
that.
love
I
a
would
rebate,
really be
yeah,
happy to do
refund.
Well, and unfortunately, the charter school issue is not going to go away because school choice is here to
I
stay.
know.
The voucher system is here to stay, and that goes back to Ridge and maybe before, but we got to figure it out,
Then
you
I'm
know?
going to ask the question, of the taxes that I pay, can I just not pay all of it because I don't want it to go to charter schools? There you go.
You can do whatever you want, but
Yeah, I know, it's all
don't
about
forget,
you.
there's a
Yeah,
collection
yeah.
agency involved
Yeah,
here.
Okay, sorry.
Sharon, you had a question?
I just, the one thing, I think that in going with that transparency, I love the idea of a letter to the paper. I think that that is so many people are just not informed, and I don't necessarily think it's ignorance, it's.
We have a lot of
everyone
new
works two
residents.
jobs, everyone works so hard. But I think that part of that conversation needs to hunker down on the statistics of what charter school is, because if this is something that parents are playing around with the idea of, they don't know that they have, on average, 66% graduation rates, that their literacy rates are lower, their math rate, like, statistically speaking, well, and there's no accountability there.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the community is very aware of
I think I
how
said
very
it the other
divorced that
day.
is from our system.
If we didn't have the commercials on TV saying, oh, send your
Right.
kid to cyber school, it's free.
So
No,
what can we
it's
do
not
in
free.
that letter to also inform them?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a good point.
I'm okay with that.
You know, and I think the state auditor's report, where the reserve is sitting there, wherever it's sitting, at the charter school, $600,000 is sitting there, that has to be
600 million.
exposed.
Yeah.
It has to be exposed. We have to talk about what the cyber charter schools are using
What that
money
really means.
for.
Yeah.
Our tax
that's
dollars
a
are
fight
going
to
for
have.
advertisement, social media, very high administrative salaries,
Yeah.
vacations,
I
gift
get it.
cards, Amazon.
Yeah, I get it.
I'll get on my
Difference is they're
soapbox here.
for profit, we are not.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, Vicki?
One thing I'm gonna tell you though, you're talking about trust, you're talking about divide. Since COVID is still very, and parents making choices, I will tell you, parents are making choices a lot because of the bullying, and yes, the school district is doing something about that. Parents are making choices to put their kids into the charter school because their kids are afraid. You guys are doing, I know you started the process in being able to take care of the bullying, but before you start to divide the school district between parents that do and parents that don't, I think we need to bring people together more. Don't pick charter school as your first
Yeah.
letter to the community.
Right.
Keep it,
No, it just
plus-
has to be like listed.
Has to
We
be a
can't
part
go
of it.
into
It can
detail
be
for that
listed as an
exact
item.
point. You're
It can be
right.
listed as an item.
You're right.
Totally get that
Absolutely.
because it's a thing.
Yeah, you're not.
But we need to bring the community
Yep.
back together. And in order for us to be together, we have to care about all the children.
Yep.
No matter where they're being taught under our venue, okay? The other thing too that I want to add to this, please remember when you're sharpening your pencils, our homeless rate and the rate of children who are not eating and has gone through the roof. And I know many of you have known that. You've heard of the statistics through Openlink. You've heard of the statistics through the county. Please, please sharpen those pencils, but don't sharpen them too tight on special education. Speaking as a parent who used to have a child in special education, they need every dollar that they possibly can get to maintain that department. And not only that, there's a lot of other things that could be needed for those children. And those children, your budget can change in a split second when that IEP is decided at that child. So what that child costs this year could change next year. It could go up, it could go down. To help circumvent that, every child who has an issue with reading at the very early ages, later on costs the district a lot of money by the time they hit high school. So pushing your vocational technical school is actually a very good thing because most of those children think with different parts of their brains, and that's part of being in the vocational setting. Also, the stronger we make the reading programs at the lower levels, the less likely you are to have IEPs written for reading education.
Thanks, Vic. All right. So we will continue our conversation June 9th, because I'm really bad at dates lately. June 9th, we will, at 6 o'clock, here, but probably in there.
I have to Zoom.
Okay, fine,
I'll be in Atlanta.
fine.
One more thing.
Oh,
So we did start
no,
talking about we did start talking about the trainers. So we will probably need to make a recommendation from this committee to the board, I would assume is how we want to handle it, on which, if any, proposal that we want the board approved for the following years.
Okay.
So just to recap, they offered a 3-year with a 2-year option, and they offered a 5-year with a 2-year option. The 3-year goes, like we talked about, up to $60,000 for next year. And the year after that, it goes to 90. The year after that, it goes to 130. And then the 2-year option, it would go up to 175 and then 195.
And that's for 3 trainers.
3 trainers.
And that's for 3 trainers, correct? Or 2, because they did mention, even if you go with 2, it's not gonna
Still
change
the
the
same
price.
price, yeah.
Yeah.
Vote a bargain. Okay.
The 5-year was 60 to 90, 130, 150, 175, and then the 2-year options were 195 and 205.
By that point, we should hire our own.
And then so what they gave them, which I didn't understand this proposal, and I told them it's not gonna work, is they said they could just do a 3-year with no options at the end, but they said, if you did this one, you would get closer to them being break even, which would then increase our chances of them contributing back to the district to help with some of the athletic facilities.
And what was that?
What'd they help us with?
Yeah,
I
they
asked
put-
if there
they
would be
put
a
their signs
guarantee
on
in
the
the
door.
agreement. So we asked for them to pay for the tennis, mesh tennis, what's
Yeah.
that thing called? The windscreen.
the windscreen.
Yeah.
That was
The
years
previous
ago.
agreement had $1,500 to the Ed Foundation every year. It had X amount of money for equipment to go donated, and it had a safety.
I think it was 2,500.
Okay, let's step back for a second. The 3-year
Oh, yeah, sorry.
is 60, 90, and 150?
Yeah.
No,
No. So well, this is the
The
Those
3-year
are
was
3
no
with
options.
2
the
options.
3-year option B, the one that I told them was not gonna work. But
Okay,
they said it would be 60, then it would be 130, and then it would be 150,
And that's with no option.
no option. But I said to them, why would we do that? But-
Yeah, that's stupid.
But they're saying that would get us closer to
All right,
a point where they could contribute.
So I guess the question I can hear in Peg's head is, So what are they gonna give us for that exorbitant amount? Like, it's,
That's
okay,
not what I
that's
would've
what
said.
we
Just
agree.
lower the
But how
annual
many-
fee.
how many-
Okay, wait a minute,
All right,
let us
yeah,
discuss,
let's-
please.
Yeah,
How many hours?
hang on, Keith.
Okay, I mean, this is getting close, you know, some meetings I warn you that something might slip, this is getting close. This is just absolutely absurd, plain and simple. If we do if we do the 3+2 option, which is cheaper in the long run, saving us, actually, it's only saving us, not saving us $50,000 or $40,000, because the second year you're going to, from 130, and the third year you're still going to 150. If we do a 3-year option plus a 2, can we cancel the contract after 3?
Yeah.
No penalties.
Correct.
Go for the 3-year option. You know, I'm not even going to discuss anything else, because as you said, there's nothing in it for us.
No.
$1,500 a year? Get the hell out of
And
here.
how
That's
many
the
years,
previous.
Alan, how many years have they been here?
That's
So they
great.
say a partnership since 2018 is what they
So,
say.
Oh, it's been
and in that time, all we got were signs for the doors and the stadium fence for free advertising for them.
Right,
In 2 years, we
that we're now gonna
didn't
pay
even
for.
use them because of COVID, because we didn't really have sports.
Right.
How much time do they
Do
spend?
we get a refund?
But still,
How
how much we
How long do
paid
they spend?
in
We have
investment.
3 full-time people that are here at the whim of the athletic department, and when coaches, so practices, games, and when that's, I don't know if it's tied to Dr. Page, who's our doctor who comes to football games and those things. So the numbers you're seeing, 60, 90, those are for 3 full-time people that are not our employees, that are St. Luke's
So they are
employees.
full-time?
Full-time with us, yes, and they work around the schedule, they're here probably 6 days a week, and not all of them, but covering the sports and the practices, beginning at some point in August and working their way through the school year.
How many hours per day is considered?
So if we were to
Are they here
hire,
for like-
They're in around 1:30, 2 o'clock, and
It
then
varies.
till the end.
And they're not there, not all 3 are there all the time.
Yeah, so there's a differentiation
The
between
oversight
what
is-
we call full-time.
is
Okay.
lacking.
Full-time for me is 40 hours a week, you know, because that's
Yeah.
what I base our schedules on. But full-time for this might be
but the
5 or 6 hours a
insurance
day.
coverage comes from St. Luke's.
Say
And
again?
if we hired our own people, we would have to provide
Peas or
insurance
some
coverage
coverage.
plus benefits.
So not if it was less than 30 hours.
Okay, you need this
Would that-
recommendation for
would
this,
that cost
this week's
be
meeting?
So,
Flushed out to.
Yeah, so again, Peg just said 65,000, so 65,000 salary, 25,000 for all benefits, and then add 30% for Peasers, you're gonna be close to 90 or 100,000. What this is pitching, even though it's a huge jump from where we are, where we were 7 years at 27.5, they're saying they had to retool, so you're getting 3 trainers with St. Luke's for 60,000 for 1 year, 90,000, and then 120, or whatever it is. To do your own, you're at 100,000, close to, for just 1 year. And they're not affiliated with anyone, they're on their own, I guess, as was been done there.
They're
Across-
employees of the district.
Correct, yeah.
Just
So,
like a coach would.
And there are some districts, I mean, my previous district had them on, they were on the teacher contract, but not on the same scale.
Yeah.
A different salary scale, but then.
I think
Same
this
benefits
district's
there.
doing 210 days. 210 days, 65 grand. But either way, again, I really continue with the argument of 3 trainers. But I get their deal, I get that. What is their deadline to hold
Yeah,
us
that's a
hostage?
good question.
What's the hostage deadline?
so they really wanted something by Friday. And I
There you
just
go.
said- No, I mean,
There you
last
go.
Friday, last Friday.
If we don't have a recommendation, then we don't have a recommendation, they can wait, I mean,
They were seeking an answer from us because they're trying to get their budgets ready for next year and how many FTEs that they needed and all this. And it was last Friday is when they wanted it, and, you know, we just said we can't meet that, so
Right.
we have to
I
have a
mean,
discussion here.
if there is a recommendation from the committee, and there's no pressure to have one, if there is, that we're gonna go with the 3 with the 2-year option, and if we decide to sever at that time, we do, then we can say, we have a recommendation from the committee, but it's going to the next meeting on June 19th.
When's the drop dead date that we need to give them any type of feedback on a contract with them?
When would we lose it? Let's go there.
Well,
So-
basically, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was thinking, what we, Dr. Roche and I talked about is that if we got a recommendation here, I would email them and say, our finance committee is making the recommendation to the board to go with whichever one. And then that should be enough for them to secure their FTEs for their budget for next year.
And if
then
there's
we
no
just have to-
recommendation from tonight, that's fine, we'll just let them know it's
Yeah.
continuing to be discussed, the next time they have a recommendation is June 9th, or you gotta wait till June 19th. I mean, if that's, there's no pressure, no,
Right.
if, If that's
Let's
what
pick
it
this
is.
up again. I would
June
recommend we
9th?
pick it up June 9th.
Sarah, good with that? Trina, good with that?
I lost you guys for a couple minutes, but I guess if you're going with no recommendation at this time as far as the trainers,
That's what it
Yes.
sounds like, waiting till June 9th for the follow-up conversation.
I'm okay with that.
Sarah, you're okay with that? Keith, okay with that? I'm okay with that. All right, we'll bring it up on June 9th.
Yep.
Old business.
Yeah, I mean,
Trainers.
it's
Gotcha.
current, what's in the budget right now?
I was just gonna ask that, thank you.
What's in there? Is
The
it
$60,000.
So you only have to count on 1 year.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, all right. All right, anyone have anything else from the board, Trina?
I think that was the key that Joyce kind of talked about, like, don't want special ed. I get that, Vicki, I wanted to be clear, my proposal wasn't, hey, let's just chop off special ed for no reason. I said that would be the most difficult thing to cut because I agree with you that a lot of that is definitely necessary. I was just wondering if Dr. Gibbons could take another look, it never hurts. Like Dr. Roach said, they're still gonna be looking at each department and seeing what else they can possibly, where else they could possibly squeeze. So I'm not just proposing, hey, let's just cut special ed.
We know.
Okay.
I think we know. I think that was pretty clear.
Yeah, I just heard tone, I didn't necessarily see, so. And as far as charter schools and cyber schools, with 4.2 million on the line, it's probably a priority for us to figure out why this isn't happening. I know it's not going away, but the surveys that we have sent in the past are obviously not working because we only received, 3 back in the last couple of years.
3 out of 185.
Yeah.
Returned.
3
Yep.
returned out of 185
It's
cents.
hard to get somebody to answer you when they already don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Don't think
so
they really care at that point.
Maybe the method of asking needs to be worked on, workshop or something like that, but.
We have the same thing with exit interviews too. I think it's just a general trend of surveys of that kind.
You gotta go knock on the door.
Yeah. It would be helpful if it was possible to understand every person I talked to. I mean, people leaving and going to that option started with the idea of masking the building. It was a political thing.
Yep.
I think, like I was saying earlier, there is right now in this climate, mistrust between the community and us as the board and the administration. And every person that I have talked to, and I know I don't talk to everybody, who has left to go to a charter school or a cyber school option is politically motivated. They are seeing that they think and, perceive there to be political ideations present in the school. So that's something I have worked toward watching to make sure that, that's not perception. And if there is anything, I'm trying to keep track of that. But again, it's hard to say because, of course, I haven't talked to everybody in our survey system. Obviously, it isn't working at all whatsoever. So that's something to look at. If we've got 4.2 million on the line next year, that needs to be a priority to understand. Oh, and I know, I think it was Vicki who was talking about bullying. People are leaving because of bullying. And that is also something that I've been investigating. The ad hoc committee was a good step. Like they're sending out a survey. I made recommendations to maybe another survey can be done. It doesn't have to be the last final survey there ever is, but we can look at the wording a little bit further and.
But we didn't even do it yet. Let's get some results in on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. But I did say the other night that I do have a meeting with Dr. Roach and I think Georgie and I are gonna meet and maybe Keith or Peg, I'm not sure. But we're gonna see if we can get a little deeper dive into some of like the types of behaviors and bullying and things like that. So I just wanted to say that we are working on that and that's kind of all related, so.
All right, well, just to remind you that the majority of the board said that we were good with not having detail. So I'm just saying that, just so I don't want you to be disappointed. All right, JP?
Yeah, I'll be quick. In terms of the ad for the newspaper, I call it, I think we need to put in there, just because it's near to my part, but the two facility projects that we're doing this
Yes.
summer.
Yep.
Because one, they're a boatload of money that we're
Yep.
spending. And two, nobody's gonna really know about it, because they're not sexy upfront projects, they're
Right.
roofs.
Oh, I
and they're
think
asbestos.
asbestos is really sexy.
That's-
So like that, you know, that'll blow up on Facebook, I'm sure, when somebody sees somebody in an orange hazmat suit walking out of the high school.
Yeah,
And
what's
That's
wrong
when
there?
everybody will know what's going on.
Yes,
But
that's true.
we should get that out beforehand. And I think I even said it in one facilities meeting, like, let's get pictures of the high school, the classrooms the way they are now, and then hallways, whatever, and then what they are later when we're done with the abatement, when everything's kind of nicer and redone. Just for some little proof, like, hey, here's where your money's
We
going.
really
Yeah.
did something.
We really did do something.
For a reason.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, I really liked your idea, Peg, about having a letter to the public from either, you know, Dr. Roach or Dr. Farina. I'd like to see that as almost like a rotating thing, that once a week, somebody puts out a letter from the administration.
Tim, he put in, it was the superintendent's column.
Yeah, it was.
And it would just be, you know, updates on things, and here's what's happening,
All
and,
learns and stuff.
yeah, I mean, it was, yeah,
I'm totally for that.
yeah, it was the good old days.
Okay. Well,
Bradley,
since
were
that's not a
you working
finance
for the
option,
paper when he was around? No.
And I know, Alan, you're putting yourself out there with the community conversation.
Yep,
meeting
lots of
person,
things.
but this
And
is
Alexis,
That's
and
what turned
helping
out.
us out. Yep, there's, let me just say this, again, my 8 years of experience. This is so much better than it was before, a million times better as far as communication, and I totally get it. That
Good enough.
you go ask Joe on the street, you know, what do you think about asbestos in the high school? And they'd be like, huh?
Yeah.
I get it. All right, well, being that it's going on 8 o'clock, I have campaign signs to pull.
Can I just
for
say one
tomorrow.
last thing?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to thank the handful of people in this room who did attend the
Yeah,
Red
thank
Hill
you.
Band concert yesterday.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of
It
fun.
was almost the whole.
Where were you? I had a seat saved for you.
All right, well,
Motion to adjourn?
thank you. All right, any discussion? Okay,
Aye.
all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thanks, everyone.